got some advice for the leader opposite. He should go back in his lobby and push reboot on chat CPC.
Pierre takes away their power. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today, Pierre Poilievre in the House of Commons, he takes the topic of slogans and flips it on its head here, removes a talking point from the Liberals, and then pulls up a list of Carney's achievements. It is absolutely savage what he's done here. Let's jump into this.
Canadians are cash-strapped and needed a break. Instead, the Prime Minister gave them the costliest budget in Canadian history and put it all on the national credit card. The Parliamentary Budget Officer revealed the Prime Minister doubled Trudeau's deficits, added $16 billion more to the debt than he promised, is increasing the debt to GDP ratio, breaking another promise. $78 billion of additional debt works out to about $5,000 for every single cash-strapped family in this country. How does the Prime Minister expect single moms and seniors and small business people who can't pay their bills to pay another $5,000 for his inflation?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, we will take no lessons from the Conservatives. Mr. Speaker, what they did yesterday under this leader, they voted against investment in infrastructure. Under this leader, they voted against investment in housing. Under this Conservative leader, they voted against productivity and innovation in our country. Under this leader, they voted against investment in our sovereignty, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, we'll build a strong Canada, we'll empower Canadians, and we'll protect our sovereignty because we believe in Canada.
This guy doesn't believe a word out of his own mouth. This is him yesterday after his first budget passed.
People decided to, parliamentarians, they were voting in favor. They decided to put Canada first.
It looks like he's mourning the death of a family member. They did not want this budget to pass. Here we got Champagne today saying it's deplorable that anyone would vote against their budget.
What was deplorable? You said it was deplorable en français. What was that? What was deplorable about last night?
Well, I mean, I my perspective, but at a time where Canada is facing, Canada needs to meet the moment. That's what Canadians expect us. So I don't understand how some will explain to their own constituents how they would vote against things that province have been wanting, the labor movement have been wanting, businesses have been wanting, our military have been wanting.
Are you kidding me? Businesses are fleeing and you've got business leaders across Canada calling out the Liberals doing an awful job. They're not offering the right tax incentives. They're building projects that enrich themselves, as he saw with Mark Carney in my previous video. He's building out all that electricity corridor, the Red Chris mine, helping push forward the second phase of that, as well as KSI Lissam's LNG, making that all low carbon, and then using Brookfield's hydropower to either electrify it or having to buy carbon credits because there's not enough electricity.
When you talk about investing in infrastructure, that should really bring Canadians together. When you say investing in housing, that should bring Canadians together. Investing in productivity,
Yeah, there's no productivity. These guys are liars. They're not building up Canada. They're building their own bank accounts.
I hope people will see that we've done our very best to provide something that would meet Canadian expectations.
Oh yeah, you guys have done a lot, haven't you? It's just a matter of time now. This is a waiting game for the NDP to get their strength back. I'm going to keep opening up stuff here. I've got another bombshell to drop, which will be coming in a future video, still building it out here, because now that I know what Mark Carney's doing here, every word he says, every announcement, it is all falling into place now.
Mr. Speaker, I don't think anybody's been able to cram that many slogans into one answer, and this is coming from me. This is coming from me.
How do they go against that? They're always calling him on his slogans. This is brilliant. And Carney uses slogans too. Build Canada strong. There's people on X complaining about 3-word slogans. Poilievre, 3-word slogans, axe the tax. Build Canada strong. They all use slogans. Pierre's got to stick with this. It makes him immune to those jabs.
Let's take housing. He says they're spending billions of dollars more on housing. The results are out today. Housing starts down 17% year over year. Where we need the most in Toronto, down 42% year over year. Vancouver, 36% year over year. Ontario, down.
Did you get that? Housing starts in Toronto down 42% in Toronto, 36% in Vancouver. That is massive. These are the biggest cities in Canada.
35% and BC down 22%. Why is it that the more Liberals spend, the less that we can build?
The leader of the opposition is ignoring the year-to-date results. He's looking month to month. He's He's twisting the facts. He's getting confused in the numbers. Conservatives have a tough time with numbers sometime. We understand that.
Oh yeah, tough time with numbers. Look at them all having a laugh here. The Liberals have the audacity to say the Conservatives have a tough time with numbers when the PBO just came out and blew the whistle off of how Carney's hiding $94 billion, right there, $94 billion of operational spending in capital. These are dirty banker tactics.
Year to date, 2025 versus 2024, we are up 5% with housing starts.
What are Canadians getting for the 28 trips, 150,000 kilometers, enough to circle the world 4 times that the Prime Minister's billed back to Canadians? Well, he met with the Americans, and they doubled tariffs on our steel, aluminum, autos, and tripled them on our forestry. He met with the Chinese, who increased tariffs on our farmers and fish harvesters. He met with the Indians. They increased tariffs on Canadian peas. He met the Brits, and they're keeping their blockade on our beef. Why is it that whenever the Prime Minister gets on a plane, Canadians end up paying more tariffs abroad?
Good news for Canadians. Germany just signed a $1 billion deal with Lockheed Martin Canada to support jobs right here in this country. This is
Oh yeah, Lockheed Martin, you know where this is going. We'll let him speak first.
what Canadians are getting from the Prime Minister being on the world stage, selling what Canada has to offer. It's about unlocking new markets and creating good jobs here in Canada.
Come on, guys. I've been tracking your every movements here for months now. Obviously, figuratively, not literally. Lockheed Martin. I've recently updated this list here of conflicts of interest. You can see it's getting longer now. We've recently just added in North Coast Transmission Line. This is indirect conflict of interest. We've also got ATCO, also indirect conflict of interest, and then all the other ones in here. But Lockheed Martin, right there, you can see it on the screen. So these are 2 deals in negotiation. The Precision Strike Missile System here, the M142 High Mobility Artillery Rocket System, and the F-35 fighter jets. Mark Carney invested in Lockheed Martin. Carney should be forced to sell all of his stocks. It is then given over to a blind trustee who reinvests those stocks, and in that process, there's no capital gains. That is the most fair thing to do. And then after he leaves the office of the Prime Minister, he's allowed to sell all those stocks if he wishes with no capital gain hit, and then he can rebuy all the stocks he had before if he wants. Because right now, this is a big clown show. Canada's not a serious country when our Prime Minister can keep pushing for projects that he benefits from. I mean, it's like the same thing with Nancy Pelosi in America. She has one of the best records of stock trading in America. She goes, has a meeting with some high-up executives, she invests in a stock, the next day it gets announced, she makes a ton of money. People track Nancy Pelosi's stock picks because her returns are so good. The Democrats are just as corrupt as the Liberals here. And I know people push back, well, Donald Trump's corrupt. Well, Donald Trump, yeah, he's got his ties over here. I'm sure he's doing things that are benefiting the Trump organization. So then where does that leave us? Pierre Poilievre, the one guy out of all this group of people we were talking about here, who sold his stocks before the election. He said, you know what, I want to be transparent. He sold all of his stocks. He does not get enough credit for doing that. Meanwhile, we've got the Liberals proud to announce a deal with Lockheed Martin when Mark Carney's invested in Lockheed Martin. And all it'll take for these shills is to keep their $200,000 a year job or $300,000 a year job if they're a minister, or I believe it's like $250 if you're a secretary, to keep pushing this stuff.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
With the Prime Minister billing millions of dollars for his high-flying trips around the world, 28 trips, 150,000 kilometers, now is the time for a scorecard. The Americans have increased tariffs on Canadian autos, aluminum, steel, and lumber. The Indians have increased tariff on our peas. The Chinese increased it on our farmers, our fish harvesters. Now, allow me to introduce a comprehensive list of all the tariffs the Prime Minister has successfully had reduced on Canada.
Oh, the left is going to hate Pierre for that, but it's the truth. No tariffs reduced. This is wild, and Pierre's right. So Anita Anand went over to India. She did make this deal here. India and Canada agree on new roadmap for relations, which would open up more free trade for peas and lentils. And then shortly after Anita Anand left, you can see this is October 13th, 2025. Just 2 weeks later, October 29th, India imposes 30% duties on yellow peas. Like, the Liberals are completely incompetent. Everything Pierre is saying here is factual.
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative leader continues to stand against support for Canadian workers and businesses. He has refused to support our government's plan to double non-U.S. exports over the next decade. In fact, he called Canadian exports, other than oil, pixie dust. Does the Conservative leader think our $5 billion in beef exports is pixie dust, or the LNG headed to South Korea from BC, or what about the $7.6 billion worth of fish and seafood caught by hardworking Canadians? Why there's imaginary tax?
You can't bring up seafood when we've got tariffs on seafood from China and you guys are doing nothing about it. Let's get real here. How do these people look themselves in the mirror when they go home at the end of the night? Like, well, I made a ton of money and I screwed over Canada, so I'm good with that. Like, what's wrong with these people?
Taxes or pixie dust, the Conservative leader needs to get on board and out of the way, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much.
What was that? Get out of the way? That's Pierre's line for the Liberal government. They trying to flip around his own words?
His costly credit card budget puts today's reckless spending on tomorrow's taxpayers. He's maxing out Canada's credit card. Watchdogs are exposing the Liberals' accounting tricks. Fitch and the budget watchdogs say Canada's credit score is at risk because the Liberals always break their own made-up fiscal targets. How many more fiscal watchdog reports is it going to take for this Prime Minister to finally rein in his costly credit card spending?
So you got Jazz here bringing up that PBO report I just mentioned, $94 billion being hidden, of operational spend being hidden under capital, so Mark Carney can phony baloney balance the budget in 3 years. And listen to the response here.
Mr. Speaker, I got some advice for the leader opposite. He should go back in his lobby and push reboot on chat CPC, because all it does is rehash the same tired old talking points. Last night, Mr. Speaker, this House passed a generational budget. We're going to invest in infrastructure.
We can see exactly what Mark Carney's doing here. Here's him walking up the steps this morning. Listen to his words very carefully. When he starts to mention industries, what's the first thing he mentions?
Good day for Canada. Moving forward, building the country, protecting our community.
Do you need to negotiate more with the opposition?
Prime Minister, can you talk a little bit about your reaction to the budget and also the fact that you have agreed with Elizabeth May in regards to meeting the Paris climate targets? At the same time, you want to sign an MOU with Alberta in regards to the pipeline. How are you going to square that?
Well, first off, let me just say that very pleased that we passed the budget vote. There are more votes, of course, to come through the budget process, but an important step for our country.
He seems deflated that he didn't get to go to an election. That's what that looks like to me. I mean, he's looking down, he's kind of hanging his head while he's saying that.
Protecting our communities, protecting our borders, protecting our way of life, building our country, building locally, building new trade infrastructure, building as an energy superpower, it goes to your question. And Canada is blessed. We're blessed with immense natural resources, everything from hydroelectricity.
Ding, ding, ding. Number one thing he mentions, hydroelectricity. Mark Carney's very bad at telegraphing what he really wants to do. I've been watching this for months. I mean, going back to the election, in the middle of the debates, he mentioned Westinghouse. And what do we have now? This huge deal with Westinghouse, Cameco, Brookfield in America, nuclear power. Here he's mentioning hydropower. And what did I just bring up on the previous video? This complete clown show here of the North Coast transmission line, powering KSI Lessons LNG, the Red Chris mine, and Brookfield's hydropower to do it. So I'm going to break apart this one here and get all the hydro dams on there, as well as we got this one from Powell River as well. As I mentioned, this 30-year agreement, they're trying to sell all this electricity to America, and the locals revolted. Carney's up to something here. We are seeing exactly which pieces he's moving on the board now. Hydropower, carbon credits, and these big major infrastructure projects. Obviously, nuclear is on the plate as well. Still working out how they're going to do this, though. Did Bruce Flatt here do this big deal with Donald Trump with Westinghouse Nuclear, which is now on this side of the board here? I moved all the data center stuff over. Are they trying to force all the carbon credit system through America, clean energy from America, because they'll get a bigger return on their carbon credits? I'm still trying to figure out what's going on here with this, but clearly we see the pieces they're moving around. Many of you have been sending me excellent tips. You want to submit a tip, there's a section up here on my chart here. You can go to submit a tip, fill out this form and fire it off. And I want to say a big thanks to anyone who sends me a tip, a cash tip, financial tip through PayPal, Patreon, or Buy Me a Coffee or whatever, or through the YouTube system here. I greatly appreciate everyone's generosity. There's tips from $1, $2, $50, $100. Somebody tipped me $1,000, which is absolutely outrageous. We're going to keep breaking this apart here because once we have enough proof, enough evidence of what's going on, it'll be undeniable that Mark Carney needs to be thrown out of power. And as I build out this section here of the conflicts of interest, we can then print this out on pieces of paper and people can share this with their community. be, because people need to know that Mark Carney, our prime minister, is using his power as prime minister to make himself rich. This isn't right. This should be against the law. This should be jail time for even considering doing this. But it's allowed in our country, and these rules need to change. These laws need to change. So Jazz coming back here after that deplorable little comedy skit.
The CRA's a mess under that guy, and he's trying out to be a comedian in here. The budget watchdog exposed the Liberals' shady accounting tricks. He said Liberals have a less than 8% chance of meeting their own fiscal targets that they made up while trying to hide $100 billion under so-called investments. The Prime Minister tried this trick in the UK. He's trying the same trick on Canadians. Instead of cooking the books to hide his $100 billion ego, why doesn't he just rein in his out-of-control, costly credit card spending?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, they want to talk about slogans and quoting slogans. They quoted the food professor so much, you think it was the leader's personal chef, serving up the same tired old leftovers time and time again. Last night, we passed a generational budget that will...
Yeah, this is not funny, dude. This guy thinks this is just a big comedy show. He thinks he's in Yuck Yucks here. I mean, look at these losers having a laugh here.
This Liberal government is the most expensive in Canadian history, and every dollar the Prime Minister spends comes out of the pocket of hardworking Canadians, driving up the costs of everything. Food prices are 50% higher than the target rate, and experts have warned the Liberals the industrial carbon tax is driving up the cost, fertilizer, farm equipment, and food. Now, the Liberals like to say this tax is imaginary, but they're increasing their own imaginary tax in the budget. Is that what they tell parents of the 700,000 kids lined up at Food Bank, as you're imagining things? Why is the Prime Minister increasing the industrial carbon tax when food is already unaffordable?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
This budget meets the moment, speeding up national building projects.
They got a memo somewhere to keep saying that meets the moment. That's more corporate lingo speech. Let's take this offline.
Boosting trade diversification for agri-food and agriculture, for our economy, and those generations he speaks of to come. $150 billion in infrastructure alone in the plan, including trade corridors, agri-marketing, ag stability, clean fuel regulations, biofuel incentives, CFIA funding for digital trade, investments in can export, EDC, global affairs, all for trade diversification and growing agriculture, Mr. Speaker.
All for trade diversification. This guy just listed them all off. I don't even have to. All those stupid regulations are making life unaffordable and food unaffordable. And then they have the audacity to tell us that funding gender-sensitive rice in Vietnam is going to make rice cheaper in Canada. There's a load of garbage. There's no proof Canada's even buying that rice and bringing it over here. Let alone, why would it be cheaper if there was certain regulations making it more eco-green and having women involved that would make it cheaper? There's absolutely no logic on the Liberal side of the House of Commons. On this episode of Far Off Ripoff, looking at one of the newest ones on here, national platform of women from Moldova. This isn't one of the biggest ones, it's the newest, but the Liberals spent $30,000 of our money with the goal of, right here, overall goal of reducing poverty in Moldova, in Chisinau, MD. Where is that? I don't even know where that is. I'm going to assume somewhere in Moldova. So yes, this is in Moldova. As we zoom out here, where is this? In the middle of Cpac nowhere. So just south of Ukraine here, northeastern Romania, so it's in the bottom half of Moldova. Why are we trying to reduce poverty in this town in Moldova, in the city, when we have nurses sleeping in cars trying to just make it in Canada? Like, this is disgusting. I don't care if it's just $30,000 as compared to many of these other ones that are millions of dollars. We shouldn't be sending a dime over there.